You reach for the blanket. That blanket is a test, and almost nobody reads the result. A dog who's cold stops shaking once he's warm. A dog who isn't cold keeps going. And the blanket has just told you something you never asked it. Most owners stop looking right there. The blanket goes on, the dog gets held, and that's the evening. The part that decides how this goes isn't what you do tonight. It's what you noticed yesterday and didn't write down. And there's a question sitting under all this that I can't answer for you yet. The same shaking dog can look like two completely different diseases at 8 tonight and 8 tomorrow morning. One of those pictures names the illness. The other one lies. Telling them apart is most of the job. In the largest look at dogs sent to specialists for whole body shaking, cold doesn't appear on the list of causes at all. The two biggest things on that list are both sitting in your house right now, and you can't see either of them. I'm Dr. Tom Ellery. 15 years in general practice, mostly dogs and cats, mostly the ordinary end of the day. A shaking dog comes through my door most weeks of the year. Some of them go home in 20 minutes, some of them go straight onto a drip. If this is useful, subscribe and hit like. And tell me in the comments what city you are watching from, and who's at home with you, what animal, what breed, how old. I read them and they change what I make next. One thing before we start. I can tell you how the signal works and what to watch for. I can't tell you what your dog has. I haven't seen him move. I haven't put hands on him. The person who does both of those things is the one who gets to decide. Take this to that appointment. Don't use it instead of one. So the blanket goes on. The next 20 minutes decide what kind of conversation this is. When a dog shakes, we file it under feelings. He's cold, he's scared, he's excited about the leash, he's old. The file is reasonable, and most of the time it's correct. Dogs really do shiver in the cold. They really do tremble at the clinic door. A small dog on a tile floor in January is doing exactly what your body does on a freezing train platform. Being wrong is rarely the problem here. The problem is that once you filed it, you stop looking. Shaking becomes a mood, and nobody investigates a mood. Picture a Tuesday evening. Small dog on the rug by the radiator, going in fine ripples through the shoulders. You put his sweater on and sit down with him against your leg. On the counter behind you is his lunch bowl, and it's still full. Warm room, dry coat first. If he's damp, towel him properly, because wet fur pulls heat out of a dog fast. Sweater or blanket on. Put your hands on his ear tips and his paw pads. Those go cold first and they warm back up first. Then set a timer for 20 minutes and let him be. 20 minutes later, one of two things is true. He's settled, his ears are warm, and he's drifting off. Or he's warm to the touch and still going. Warm him up and start the clock. Still going at 20 minutes is not a cold dog. The next job is working out what kind of movement you're watching. 4 different things share the word shaking, and they don't mean the same thing. Shivering is heat production. Fast, fine, all over the body, and it eases as he warms. A tremor is rhythmic. It goes back and forth around the joint at a steady beat. Same speed, same size, on and on. A shake-off is the whole body ripple from nose to tail that ends in half a second. Dogs do it wet and they do it dry. A seizure is different from all three, and the difference is your dog himself. During a seizure, he isn't there. He won't answer his name and he won't take food. Afterward, he's confused for a while, sometimes for an hour. During a tremor, he's present. He looks at you. He can be annoyed by it. He can walk through it. 2 more checks and you can do both from the sofa. Watch whether it stops when he falls asleep. Watch whether it stops when he gets up and walks. Sleep switching it off means the brain is generating it. Walking switching it off means something else entirely. Now the thing I want you to write down before anything else. When those referred shaking dogs were sorted by cause, close to half of them turned out to be poisoned. The second biggest group had an immune disease of the brain. Those two look alike at the front door, and they get handled completely differently. One line of history separates them better than most of what happens on the exam table. Did he go off his food before the shaking started? In that series, roughly 1 in 5 of the immune cases had stopped eating first. Among the poison dogs, that happened in 1 animal out of 91. A dog who was fine at dinner and shaken by bedtime tells one story. A dog who peaked at breakfast, ignored lunch, then started trembling by evening tells another. You're the only person who has that information. Say it before you say anything else. After that, the fastest thing you can do tonight costs nothing. You look at where on his body it's happening. 3 maps, and they lead to 3 separate lists. Whole body, all 4 limbs, often the head as well. That's the list with poisons on it, along with low blood sugar, low calcium, and the immune brain diseases. Back legs only, that's usually muscle, joint or spinal cord, older dogs mostly. Head only, in a rhythmic yes yes or no no. That's its own condition and it looks far worse than it is. Start with the strange one, it's the easiest thing here to check. There's a tremor that only happens while a dog stands still. Weight on all 4 feet, not moving, and the back legs buzz. He takes a step and he stops. He lies down and he stops. It shows up mostly in young dogs of the giant breeds. Great Danes above all, then Newfoundlands, Wolfhounds, Mastiffs. Usually before they turn 2. Owners bring these dogs in certain that the hips are going. The dog is reluctant to stand still and awkward getting up and down, and it reads as weakness. It isn't weakness. You can test it on your kitchen floor in half a minute. Get him standing and settled, watch the back legs, then call him toward you and watch again. If walking switches it off, tell your vet that sentence exactly. Now the opposite pattern. Shaking through the whole body that gets worse with excitement, worse with noise, worse when you handle him. And it stops when he's asleep. Often there's more alongside it. A head tilt, eyes flicking side to side, a slightly drunk walk. That combination has a name that has done real damage. People call it white shaker syndrome, because the first dogs described were small and white. Maltese, West Highlands, Bichons. Owners of brown crossbreeds get told it can't be that. In the largest group of these dogs put through brain scans, crossbreeds came out on top by a wide margin. Well ahead of West Highlands. Most of them were female. The typical weight was around 20 pounds, which is small but nowhere near a toy dog. Any color, any breed, and it's treatable. We call it an immune disease because it answers to steroids. Nobody has proved the mechanism. Head bobbing is worth a minute on its own. It terrifies people and it's usually nothing. The dog is lying down, relaxed, and his head starts nodding or swinging. He's wide awake through it. He can look right at you while it happens. Bulldogs, boxers, Dobermans, and Labradors show up more than the rest. There's a test, and the test is a cookie. Call his name, offer food, get him up and moving. In the great majority of these dogs, distraction ends the episode within seconds. Anti-seizure drugs don't help, and the proper placebo-controlled trial of one of them found no real benefit. The honest complication is this. In one referral series, where every head-bobbing dog got a brain scan, a meaningful share of them had something structural in there, most often a mass at the base of the brain. Those were dogs already sent to specialists, so that share runs higher than it would in your local waiting room. A young dog bobbing on its own, distractible with a treat, normal in every other way. Film that one and mention it at the next visit. An older dog, or bobbing plus anything else, gets looked at. One more thing while we're on patterns. Your dog used to press himself into your legs when he was frightened. Now he goes under the bed instead. Something has changed besides his nerve. Owners rarely mention it because it looks like the dog simply got more independent. Because the biggest single category on that whole list is something he ate. He comes in from the yard and he's fizzing. You can see it moving under the coat along his flanks. It travels in waves and it has no steady beat to it. He jumps when the refrigerator door shuts. There's drool on the floor by the mat. 20 minutes ago he was a normal dog, and if anyone had asked, you'd have said he found something exciting out there. He did find something. It was in the compost. Within those poisons, the agent identified most often was mold toxins. A head of red bait, a head of antifreeze. They grow on food waste. All bread, cheese rinds, walnut shells, the sludge at the bottom of a compost heap. Whatever went into the bin on Sunday and is still sitting there Thursday. Certain molds make compounds that act straight on the nervous system. Onset is quick, often inside an hour, sometimes within minutes. The classic picture is fine rippling muscle that worsens when you touch him or make a noise. A dog startling at everything, drooling, vomiting. In bad cases, seizures. These dogs do well with treatment. They do a lot better when somebody says the word compost early. A compost heap needs a lid the dog can shift, or a fence around it. Kitchen trash goes behind the door, or under a lock. Anything moldy leaves the house instead of going out to the garden. And on walks, the thing to watch is a trash can by the bench, and whatever got tipped out of it. Slug pellets are the other classic. In Britain, the old kind, metaldehyde, has been illegal outdoors since 2022. In much of the United States, it's still on the shelf. Either way, a ban doesn't reach into the back of a shed. Teens outlive legislation. If there's a box of blue-green pellets in your garage from before you had the dog, deal with it this week. Don't tip them on the garden and don't put them in the household trash. Seal the tin in a bag and take it to the household hazardous waste drop-off. The same place batteries and old paint go. The next one is the one nobody wants to say out loud. The picture is specific. The dog is wobbly, drunk on his feet. He is hyperreactive, flinching at light, at sound, at being touched. And he dribbles urine while lying down without appearing to notice. That combination is close to a signature, and most emergency vets recognize it from across the room. In one large hospital review of dogs who had definitely taken cannabis, most owners said there was no possibility of exposure. Plenty of them were telling the truth, because a lot of these dogs pick it up outside. On a pass, in a park, out of somebody's discarded food. I'll say this plainly, we are not the police. Nobody is calling anybody. Telling us what's in the house changes the treatment and shortens the stay. Holding it back protects no one. Sugar-free is the next shelf along. The sweetener that matters is xylitol. On labels it also turns up as birch sugar. That second name has caused real harm. People scan for the first one and walk straight past the second. It's in gum, mints, some peanut butters, gummy vitamins, mouthwash, and liquid medicines made for children. In a dog it makes the pancreas dump insulin for sugar that never arrives. Blood glucose drops hard, sometimes within half an hour. Trembling, weakness, collapse. There is a nastier version. Some sugar-free supplement tablets are sweetened with xylitol and carry an active ingredient that causes tremors in its own right. One tablet, two separate poisonings. The medicine cabinet gets a flat rule. Don't give your dog human medicine. Not for the shaking, not for the pain you think is behind it. Not once. Human anti-inflammatories strip the protective layer of a dog's stomach lining. They also choke the blood supply to the kidneys. Dogs are far more sensitive to that than we are. Acetaminophen wrecks the liver, and at higher doses it damages red blood cells too. Antidepressants, ADHD tablets and certain sleep supplements push the nervous system into overdrive. What comes out is exactly the tremors and high temperature you were trying to fix. If your dog is shaking and in pain, the answer is a phone call. Now let me take something away from my own side of the argument. Chocolate is the poison every owner knows, and the fear around it runs well ahead of the data. In one hospital review of dogs brought in after eating chocolate, well over 2/3 of them never developed a single sign. The ones who did get sick had mostly eaten dark or baking chocolate, and nearly all of them recovered. None of that makes it safe. Cocoa powder and baking chocolate are genuinely dangerous, especially to a small dog, and any known ingestion earns a phone call. But a Labrador who licked out a milk chocolate wrapper is a different problem from a terrier who ate a block of baker's chocolate. I'd rather you spend the worry on the compost heap. And now I have to complicate everything I've just told you. All of it rests on one assumption, that the effects tell you the agent. Rippling and startle means mold. Wobbly and dribbling means cannabis. Collapse after the gum wrapper means the sweetener. Read the signs, name the poison, treat it. That assumption has been quietly falling apart, and rat poison is where it broke. For decades, rat bait meant one thing. It stopped the blood clotting. It took a few days to show itself, and there was an antidote. Vitamin K, cheap and effective and sitting in every practice refrigerator. A dog who ate rat bait was a frightening evening and a solved problem. Then the rules changed. Regulators restricted the older baits to protect children, pets and wildlife, and manufacturers moved to a different compound. It's called brometalin. It's a nerve poison. It causes tremors, weakness in the back end, seizures, and swelling inside the skull. There is no antidote. There is no test in the room that finds it. And in one laboratory's 14-year run of confirmed cases, the second half brought in almost 3 times as many as the first. The boxes look the same. The bait blocks look the same. A green pellet in a plastic station tells you nothing now. So everything I said about reading the poison of the dog gets less reliable the moment you can name the product. Which means the most useful object in your house tonight isn't a treatment and it isn't a test, it's the packet. Not every collapse has a wrapper behind it. Some of the fastest ones start inside the dog, with nothing to find and nothing to bag. Blood sugar first. A brain runs on glucose almost exclusively. It can switch over to fat the way muscle can, and it keeps no reserve of its own. The reserve sits in the liver, and the liver is only as big as the animal around it, which is why a toy puppy is the classic case. A 3-month-old Chihuahua carries a sugar store you could measure in spoonfuls. A missed meal empties the tank. So does hard play, a cold night, a load of worms, or a bad bout of diarrhea. So does a move to a new house that puts him off his food for a day. He goes quiet first, then unsteady, then trembling, then flat on his side with pale or grey gums. Owners nearly always describe it as drunk. What you do is sugar on the gums. Corn syrup, honey or maple syrup, smear it onto the gums and the inside of the cheek with a finger. It absorbs straight through the lining, so he doesn't have to swallow. Never pour liquid into the mouth of a dog who can't hold his head up. He will breathe it. The trick has a limit. It buys minutes and it treats nothing. A puppy who comes around gets a real meal within a few minutes, high in fat and protein, and the phone call either way. A puppy who needs it twice in a day is past what a kitchen counter can fix. A puppy who doesn't come around properly is already in the car. Older dogs run low for other reasons. A tumor in the pancreas makes insulin on its own schedule, so you get episodes. Weakness and trembling out of nowhere, often after exercise or a long gap between meals. Lifting once he's eaten. Adrenal failure looks different. A dog vaguely unwell for months. Vomiting on and off. Flat on and off. Picking up and dipping again. Then falling apart under something stressful like a kennel stay. The trade calls it the Great Pretender. Standard poodles, Portuguese water dogs, dog tollers and West Highlands are overrepresented, and it lands most often on young to middle-aged females. Both of those show on blood tests, and both are manageable once they have a name. Calcium is the other one that runs out. The dog at risk is a nursing mother, in the 2nd and 3rd week after whelping, when milk output peaks. Small breeds with big litters usually. Calcium lives in the milk faster than she can replace it. Owners notice the tremor. What comes before it is more useful. She pants when nothing is warm. She won't settle. Up, down, up again, circling the box. Her walk goes stiff. Some whine, some fuss over the puppies. Some start ignoring them. Then shaking. Then a temperature climbing fast. Then seizures. This one moves in hours. There's old advice attached to it that got reversed and it still circulates on breeder forums. People used to supplement calcium right through pregnancy to prevent exactly this. It does the opposite. Feed her calcium she doesn't need yet, and her own parathyroid system winds down, because nothing is asking it to work. Then the litter arrives, demand goes vertical, and nothing is pulling calcium out of her bones. The supplement raises the odds of the collapse it was bought to prevent. Feed her a diet labeled for growth, or for all life stages, from the day the pregnancy is confirmed through to weaning. That wording sits on the back of the bag, not the front. And leave the supplements alone in pregnancy unless your vet has a reason. Both of these turn around fast once the right thing goes into a vein. That speed matters beyond the treatment. How fast a shaking dog changes in either direction is one of the best clues there is for separating the two big categories. None of it covers what I see most, and what I see most leaves a blood panel completely clean. Pain. A dog in pain trembles, and there is nothing subtle about it. Muscle tension, adrenaline, a body braced against its own movement is the single most common reason a dog shakes in front of me. The sign that turns my head fastest is panting. A dog panting at rest in a cool room, not just back from a walk, is telling you something. Put trembling beside it and I'm working on pain until something else explains it better. Posture next. A hunchback, head carried low, moving as though the spine were one solid piece. That's usually mid-back or neck. The other one is a dog with chest and elbows flat on the floor and his back end in the air. He holds it, gets up, goes back to it, settles nowhere. That's a belly. Don't press it, don't rub it, don't offer food, and don't sleep on it. What I don't want is you going back over the last 3 weeks and marking yourself down. A study out this year put a list of dog behaviors in front of more than 500 dog owners. The same list went to a comparison group who don't own dogs. The obvious signs scored fine: personality change, a paw lifted hesitantly, less play. The quiet ones scored badly for everybody: lip licking, yawning, extra blinking, sniffing at nothing. Owning a dog didn't help at all. Two things did: having been through a painful illness yourself and having nursed a dog through one. Reading pain is a learned skill, and people learn it the hard way. Back legs in an old dog are their own puzzle. 3 answers look identical from the doorway. The first is tired muscle. He stands and after a while the back legs shake. He lies down and it stops. Otherwise he is comfortable, eating, keen for his walk. The muscle over his hips has thinned, and thin muscle fatigues fast. Run both hands over the thighs and the points of the pelvis. Compare left with right, then compare with what he used to feel like. The second is joints. Worst on the first steps after a long rest, easing as he moves. Worse on cold mornings. It shows up in what he quietly stops choosing to do. The sofa, the stairs, the jump into the trunk. Trembling here comes after effort. It follows the walk, the stairs, the long stand. The third doesn't hurt, which is why it gets missed. The nerve supply from the cord starts failing, and the feet go first. He scuffs. The tops of the back nails wear flat on one side. He'll stand with the foot knuckled under and leave it there. Look at all 4 sets of nails tonight and compare the back pair to the front. One more piece, and it's the reason I flagged the dog who stopped coming to you. A behavior clinic in England pulled records on 20 dogs referred for fear of noises. Half of them had diagnosed pain in muscles or joints. Half didn't. Both groups shook and hid in much the same way. The difference is sat elsewhere. The dogs with pain had started fearing noise about 4 years later in life, not as puppies. In middle age, out of character, apparently from nowhere. The painful ones hid instead of running to their owners. The explanation on the table is simple and uncomfortable. A frightened dog who runs to you gets picked up and held. If a shoulder or a spine hurts, being picked up and held isn't comfort. 20 dogs and the records review. It's a reason to ask the question, nothing more than that. But if your steady middle-aged dog has suddenly developed a problem with fireworks, get his joints looked at before you get him medicated. Ask for a hands-on orthopedic exam. Hips, stifles, elbows and lower back. With him walked up and down the room first. Then ask whether a 2-week trial of pain relief is reasonable before anything gets prescribed for the fear. If the fear eases while he's on it, you have your answer. Fear on its own is badly undertreated. Depending how the question gets asked, somewhere between a fifth and half of all dogs show fear of loud noises. Only a small minority of owners raise it with anybody. 2 corrections. The dry shake of nose to tail gets read as a stress signal. Trainers say it and I've said it. Somebody finally went and counted. Researchers logged shakes in a public dog run and a daycare and recorded what came before and after each one. The shakes clustered at the seam between one activity and the next. No link turned up to the postures that track emotion. More punctuation than distress. One observational study in 2 locations, so not the last word. Second, what has actually been tested? Pressure ups have a handful of small studies behind them, mostly at high risk of bias. Reviewers who pulled them found low confidence and no sign of harm. Worth trying. Don't build the evening around it. There are licensed medications for noise fear, a gel for the gums, and a tablet. In the trial of the gel, roughly 7 owners in 10 rated the effect good or excellent, against about a third given a dummy. Both need a prescription, and both depend on timing. The question I get every December: Does comforting a frightened dog make it worse? The old line was that you reinforce the fear. Fear isn't a trick he's performing for attention, and you can't reward an emotion the way you reward the sit. The evidence here is thinner than anyone would like. No good study shows quiet contact making a phobic dog worse. Hauling a hiding dog out to be reassured plainly does. Let him pick the spot. If he comes to you, stay put and be boring. All of which you now hand across a table to somebody who wasn't there. You're on the floor of my consulting room with your back to the wall. He's between your knees, panting, tail tucked, shaking harder than he was at home. Someone else's dog is barking in reception, and the movement I most need to see is the one you watched on your rug at 9 last night. So the first thing I do is nothing. I stand back and watch him stand. Then you walk him the length of the room and back, and I watch him turn. A turn brings a lot out, because it asks each leg to do a different job. 3 things come out of it: whether the shaking changes when he moves, whether it changes when he stops, and whether anything across the room can pull him out of it. Then hands, and there's an order to it. I start at the far end from wherever I suspect the trouble, because once you've hurt a dog, he stops telling you anything useful. Neck first, most days. Chin toward the chest, then around to each shoulder, watching his eyes rather than my hands. Then down the spine, thumb and finger either side of the bones. Then the belly, flat palm, slow, feeling whether the muscle tightens under it. Then each leg, joint by joint, flexed and extended, left against right. Temperature, gums, heart. Put your hand flat on his belly tonight. If he tenses away from it, that changes your evening. Then the odd ones. I stand him square and watch the back legs, then walk him and watch again, because standing still and walking are 2 separate questions. I lift one front leg and hold it, since taking weight off a limb changes some tremors and does nothing to others. And I watch the eyes, whether they drift and flick, whether the pupils are wide and matched, whether he blinks when a hand comes toward his face. 3 questions, always the same 3. When did he last eat and did he finish it? What could he have reached in the last 12 hours, including anything belonging to a visitor? And has this got worse hour by hour or held level since it started? The 3rd question carries more weight than anyone expects. Then blood, and here you and I want different things from the same tube. You want it to say what he has. It mostly says what he doesn't. Sugar, calcium, potassium, sodium, liver, kidneys, and with one extra test, a vessel bypassing the liver. All of that is worth clearing in an evening, because all of it is fixable in an evening. But no blood test says shaker syndrome, and there's no bedside test for most poisons. A clean panel means a shorter list. Read it as that and no more. A scan with a spinal fluid tap is what separates an immune brain disease from something growing. It needs a general anesthetic, and in most practices it runs well into 4 figures. I'd rather name that than dance around it. What earns it? Signs beyond the tremor. A picture that keeps worsening. One side worse than the other. An older dog. A dog who hasn't responded to anything. And now the thing I left hanging. Why the same dog looks like 2 different diseases 12 hours apart, and which of the 2 pictures is honest. On the night, poison dogs and immune dogs were hard to separate. What separated them was the next morning. In that series, every dog who improved on his own inside 48 hours, with no steroids given, turned out to be a poisoning. Not most, all of them. And every dog with the immune disease got worse across the same window. That's one hospital's caseload. It's still the sharpest split anyone has published. Time is a test, and it's the cheapest test in the building. It's why a vet may put your dog on fluids, keep him overnight, and decline to name anything at midnight. The vet is buying information. The next 2 nights do work that no machine on the premises can do. One more thing in the data is just odd. Some poisoned dogs kept shaking under general anesthetic. Nothing generated in the brain survives that. What survives is nerves misfiring out in the body. A hum and a speaker with nothing plugged into it. Only a handful of dogs were checked that way, so take it as a curiosity with tease. Which leaves one thing I owe you. The line between watching him and driving. 3 levels, and the whole point is that they aren't the same. Level 1 is watch at home. He is warm, bright, eating, drinking, walking normally. The shaking is mild. It settles when he sleeps, nothing else is wrong, and nothing new has appeared in 12 hours. Film it, write it down, phone in the morning. Level 2 is a clinic today while they're open. Shaking still going, once he's warm and rested. A dog off his food. A new whole body tremor in a dog under 2. Back legs only in a young giant breed dog. Head bobbing in an older dog or with anything else alongside it. Trembling with stiffness or a neck he won't bend. A nursing mother with any of it. A toy puppy gone quiet and unsteady. Level 3 is now. Tonight in the dark, whatever it costs. Any suspicion he's reached a poison. Packet or no packet. Whole body shaking with drooling, vomiting, white pupils or a startle at every sound. Dribbling urine alongside a drunken walk. Collapse or an inability to stand. Not answering his name. Ears that feel burning hot. A hard, tense belly. A dog stretched chest down and back end up who cannot settle. A big, deep-chested dog retching and bringing nothing up. A seizure. A nursing mother trembling. A puppy you can't wake properly. One of them fools people, because it looks like things are settling. A dog was shivering hard in the cold, and now he's gone quiet and still. Cold ears, pale gums. He's worse than he was an hour ago. A cold dog that has stopped shivering is in more trouble than one that hasn't. That one goes in the car. Tonight there are 4 jobs, in this order. Film him. Phone flat on the floor, whole dog in frame from the side, lights on, nobody talking over it. 30 seconds at least. Then, moving on the face. Get him standing in one clip and lying down in another. If it stops when he sleeps, film it stopping. Write it down while you still have it. The time it started. What he last ate, when, and whether he finished it. Where he's been in the last 12 hours. Every medication in the house, yours included, supplements included. Anything new indoors this week, plants and pest control included. Walk the house with a flashlight and walk it properly. Kitchen bin, compost, garage shelf, garden shed, under the beds. Coat pockets and bags, yours and any visitors. The footwell of the car. The room the guest stayed in. You are looking for a chewed corner, a torn wrapper, a spilled bottle, a gap in a row of things that used to be full. Back whatever turns up. Packet, wrapper, chewed block, and then you vomit. On a paper towel inside a sealed bag. It travels in the car with him. Tonight, in order. Warm him and time it. Stand him still, then walk him. Put a hand flat on his belly. Film him and write down his last meal. Walk the house with a flashlight and bag whatever you find. If you do only one of those in the next 10 minutes, put your phone on the floor and record him. The blanket is still the first thing I'd reach for, and now it has a job. Everything you gather tonight goes to the person who can put hands on him. That part hasn't changed. If this was useful, like it and subscribe. Then come back and tell me in the comments what you found. What the timer said. What turned up on the flashlight walk. The reports from people who actually went and looked are the most useful things I get.